Do the Eagles have the firepower to make the trades that need to be made this year? You bet your ass they do. Yo, everybody, how you doing? King Dingbat here. So today we have come with the hell is that? It's a big ass dog. Dallas still stinks. Yo, everybody, doing? King Dingbat here, and I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope you guys are doing well. The first thing we got to talk about is that the NFL has canceled the Hall of Fame game. It's canceled. Even the enshrinement ceremony is canceled. That really sucks. I was looking forward to watching Harold Carmichael go in. Looks like we're going to have to wait a year. So that sucks. Anytime they're canceling enshrinements of football games, it sucks. I mean, really, the only thing that comes out of it that's any good is it's one less game you have to watch them stinking Cowboys. And to hear Mark Holmes cry about the Cowboys don't play Hall of Fame. Good. Good. I don't have to watch that stinking satanic star on the field. So I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Now, the regular season is coming. And we're going to have a season. Let me just put that out there right now. The Eagles are playing this year. Football will take place. I don't care what people say. It has to take place. Has to. And it will. It will. It will. I guarantee it. We'll get football in some way or another. We're getting it. And it ain't going to be Madden 21 because that game stinks anymore. Now, the Eagles need to make a couple moves. Okay, I think they need to make a couple moves. I think you need to help fix that interior of that offensive line. I still wonder about the running back situation. Now, I've been very impressed watching Corey Clement working out and stuff. He looks healthy. He looks strong. And maybe he's the answer we need. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles go out and possibly bring in another running back at some point. We've talked about that. And then, of course, you have the Jamal Adams situation. Jamal Adams is a golden opportunity, in my opinion. He is a golden opportunity. If you can get a guy like that, you need to try to do it. Yes, the Eagles are $50 million over the cap next year. I get that. But here's the thing. You're going to make the cuts. You're going to make the adjustments anyways. And if he's willing to play out his contract for 2 years, you have to look at him as a piece for your franchise for the long term. You build around him. So you got to go out and get him. I think when you get a guy like a Jamal Adams and you get a guy that good to come in and have the possibility of playing for your team, when you have an opportunity like that, you got to go and you got to pull the trigger. Now, I don't expect the Eagles to do it. I don't think they will because I don't think they're going to pay the cost that the Jets would ask for, even though the Jets stink. And most likely, the situation with Jamal Adams is unfixable in New York. I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to stay there. He will be moved. That is not a question to me. He's getting moved. It's just a matter of when and to who. Probably not the Eagles. I don't expect it to be. Although, me personally, on a personal level, I would go after him. I would definitely go after him. Now, to make a trade like that, or to make any other possibilities of any other trades, you got to kind of look at what you have to trade. And I'm not talking about in draft picks, but in players on the roster. What players could we use for possibly making a trade? Not just for Jamal Adams, but maybe somebody else. Maybe Joe Thuney in New England. ESPN was talking about a trade today for Ethan Pocic, the offensive lineman from the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he's 25 years old. He's in the last year of his deal. He can play guard. He can play center. He's been banged up with injuries over the years, which has hurt him. However, he's versatile. He's got some talent. He's like 1,200. I think he's like 1.2 million. I'm sorry. 1.2 million under the cap. So he's a guy that you could potentially trade for. And ESPN, like I said, they proposed a trade talking about the Eagles trading for Ethan Pocic and sending Sidney Jones to the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's a very fair trade and something that I would definitely consider. Now, a lot of people think that Sidney Jones is primed for a breakout year. Maybe he is. Maybe he is. We need him to. He was a second-round pick. However, if you get in a situation in training camp where it's apparent that Avonte Maddox is going to win that outside job, or Trevor Williams, one of those guys is going to win it, Sidney Jones is a perfect piece to trade. So I would say Sidney Jones is a piece you definitely can move. Another piece you definitely can move is Rasul Douglas. Now, he's the easiest one people talk about, but I don't think he holds a lot of value. However, if you get a team with a good defensive coordinator who's got any brains in his head, he'll tell you that Rasul Douglas could be a all-pro safety in this league if he's given a chance. Schwartz, I don't know what's wrong with him. He can't figure it out, but he ain't going to do it. But maybe somebody else will, and they could get a bargain. But Rasul Douglas is another piece you can trade. I think Avonte Maddox. If Sidney Jones or Avonte Maddox, if one of those two guys or Trevor Williams is going to win that job, one of those guys you could possibly trade. Now, Avonte Maddox is really good because I think he could play in so many different positions, so you may not want to move him, but I do think he has value. So he's another guy. Then you have Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills is moving to the safety position. What happens if it doesn't work out? Do you really want to throw him back at corner? He's a guy who possibly could have value for another team. And if you notice, all the guys we're talking about are secondary guys when we talk about trading. And the reason for it is because I think this team is deep in the secondary this year with Will Parks, Roby Coleman in the slot. You still have Cravion LeBlanc. Sidney Jones, Avonte Maddox, Trevor Will, one or two of those guys is going to work out for you. Okay, so you have some flexibility, some guys that you could trade, in the secondary, and especially with the addition of Kevon Wallace. I think he's going to be your starting safety. So yeah, I think you have some pieces in the secondary to trade. That's where you have most of your pieces that you could trade. Now, another guy I hear people talking about possibly trying to move that to me personally really holds no value. I don't think teams are going to give you much for him is Nathan Gerry, Jerry, whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay, a lot of people think, well, maybe he's up for an extension. Maybe we could just trade him. Well, for what? For who? For what? What were you going to get for him? A 7th round pick? I don't know how much he holds. Yeah, he's good at special teams, and he's got some instinct, but I just think he's too small of a linebacker, okay? And you're really thin at linebacker. Let's not forget that. We are thin at linebacker. I really think when it comes to positions like offensive line, running back, defensive line, especially your defensive ends, guys like Derek Barnett, your linebackers, you can't afford to trade players off of those at those positions. You just can't. You can't afford to do it. You have to hope a guy like Derek Barnett shows up, because I don't think you can afford to trade him when you really, you need him. I'm really counting on Derek Barnett, so I don't look at him as a trade value piece. Okay, maybe maybe at wide receiver, if you get in a position where, let's say, and I don't know how it's going to work out, but let's say you have a Greg Ward or Marquise Goodwin, maybe they're fighting for the last spot, right? Or maybe Arcega-Whiteside's out there and you don't want to keep him. Maybe you could trade one of those pieces and get a little something. That's not bad either, but I think that's more unlikely. Then, there's one other guy that we got to talk about, because we talked about secondary, where, to me, that is where you have most of your trade pieces on your team, because I think you have depth there, okay? But the other place that you have to look, and this is usually when people start throwing bottles at my head, wanting to double moonwalk this ass because I'm about to say something that pisses people off. And I get it, I understand why, but you have to look at the reality of the situation, okay? Zach Ertz is a perfect trade piece for the Philadelphia Eagles. The perfect time in terms of his value is maybe almost as high as it's ever going to be. And you have a young tight end behind him who, after this year, is up for a contract extension. You have Zach Ertz, who wants to be paid like a wide receiver. He's looking for somewhere in the $16 million range. Okay? He's looking in the $16 million range. And he has, I think, 4 years left on his contract, technically, but he's only going to play 2 years out, because the last 2 years, I think, were from redoing his contract. It's just side money. It's nothing really. It's like $1.2 million. He ain't going to play for that. So he's really got 2 years left on his contract, both at $12 million a year, in over $12 million a year in cap hits, okay? So here's the situation. You have Zach Ertz. He's about 30 years old. He's going to play maybe this year, and he's going to hold out for a contract. Then you got Goddard. He's going to want a new contract. You're not going to pay Zach Ertz $16 million a year when you're talking about being $50 million over the cap, are we? I mean, I guess you could, but you have to cut a lot of people. And then what are you going to do with Dallas Goedert? Just you think he's just going to renegotiate and say, oh yeah, I love just being the backup? No, he's going to want to play somewhere. He's going to want to be the guy. So I don't think you can keep Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert long term. You could trade Goddard. He's great trade value too. If you don't want to say not Ertz, but one of the tight ends, fine. You can say that. But why would you trade the young guy? I would never trade the young guy, especially in a situation where you're going to be so cap restricted. You got to keep those young guys. That's the reason you got them. Zach Ertz is the perfect piece to trade. I mean, I hate to say it. I know what he means to the team, and I'm not saying you do it for nothing. You have to get a king's ransom. You have to get a lot back. But I think you could. I think you could get more for Zach Ertz than anybody else on this team that you would be willing to trade. And you would still have a good tight end. To me, Dallas Goedert, he's not as good of a tight end as Zach Ertz. No question about it. But he still could be a Pro Bowl tight end. He could still mean a lot. I mean, imagine if there was some way you could work a Zach Ertz, Jamal Adams type trade on. I'm not saying that's the Jets are going to want. I'm just throwing it out there, a situation like that. You can't tell me you just didn't better your team over the next 5 years. So Zach Ertz is the big trade chip that the Eagles have. I know people don't like to hear it. I love Zach Ertz. He's a Hall of Famer, should retire his number, all of it. But this is a business after all, right? And what are we going to do? Sign him to $16 million a year for the next 3-4 years? Let Dallas Goedert walk and then not have a tight end because he declines in his age and his play? I say you got maximum value now. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. He wants a lot of money. So to me, Zach Ertz is the best trade piece you could get. And if I'm the Eagles, I'm going to consider it. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but I think it's worth thinking about. So please stop throwing stuff at the screen. I love yous anyways. But yeah, I think Zach Ertz, along with Sidney Jones's, Rasul Douglas, Jalen Mills, all those guys are all trade chips that the Eagles have. And I think they should use at least some of them. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. And don't be a dingbat.